Hello, welcome back to Average Gamer Plays Factorio. I've been playing this morning and I just wanted to start recording just to show you what this is doing while it's still running before it gets filled up with plastic and stops running. So what I've done is we've got these three factories, which are the bottom left, bottom right three factories. These are all running pretty smoothly and they are just getting their oil down these pipes here and this is purely coming from this little oil field over here. So again, what I did, I've done as I did before, I've wired there's 12 pump jacks here. I've got 2 per pipe, so I've got 6 pipes coming out, each one going into 2 storage tanks, well 4 storage tanks basically. So these pipes go from those pump jacks, these go from these at the top and those 2 over there, and then these 4 pump jacks here in the bottom corner lead into these 2 storage tanks. And then I've got pump coming out, and then because there's 3 sets of tanks, I've got 3 pipes coming out, which are all pretty full. And I just wanted to see how well this carried on working before these storage chests got full of plastic, and then, I mean, I could item erase them and just keep it running, but I just wanted to see. These top 2 belts here are empty because I've not wired in this left hand. There's only 3 pipes coming in. I've got 1 pipe coming into here, 1 into this middle one, and 1 into the third one. So this one doesn't have any oil at the moment. But that is actually running reasonably well. Just being, you can just see how all the flames coming off these oil refineries. They're all pretty much running. Nothing's getting backed up. There's the occasional, you know, fluid ingredient shortage, but it does fill up. So they're not running sort of 100% of the time, all of them, but they are running fast enough. You know, you can see how much plastic's coming off up there. So I think what I might do, and what I've done for the rest of it, is I had a little bit of a rethink and I thought, okay, we've got 8 wagons leading into 16 tanks, or 3 rows of 16 tanks leading into potentially, you know, I thought, right, well, I'll just have these serving these top 8 factories. So I've got these top 4 sets of tanks. The pipes come up here and along and sort of back down again. And then these bottom 4 tanks come along here and then up into those 4. So these 8 factories are being fed from this oil train coming in here. These 4 factories, well, I thought initially I was going to just have a second oil train coming in, and then it would just deliver half as frequently as that one, because that one's serving 8 factories and this one would only be serving 4. And then I just thought, well, out of curiosity, how much oil could I just get out of these pump jacks on their own, and would there be enough to run these factories? And it seems like it is. I mean, at the moment, when the oil field is pretty full, but there's certainly, you know, it's not coming out in dribs and drabs, put it that way. And I've put speed modules in the pump jacks, but I'm not putting in beacons on them yet, so I could still speed this up a little bit if I needed to. That's now getting full. So yeah, I wanted to start recording this before all this backed up and stopped running. And we'll see how well that works. I still need to put in more pump jacks and mine more oil, because we still need rocket fuel factory for the main all the rockets I'm going to need to launch. I still haven't done anything with these. So they're still sitting there kind of unused at the moment. And then the train at the moment for the top tanks, the top set of plastic factories still comes in and picks up from here. So yeah, it occurred to me that I could just have, you know, because this is, you know, 16 into 8. And then what I did, let me just show you as well, because I did have a little bit of a rethink about this. I took off one set of tanks. And the reason for this is partly aesthetic and partly sort of practical, but if I've got these tanks meeting here, I can just have one pump drawing off these two tanks. Oh, the tanks are still joined together, but if there was another set of tanks, there'd be two pumps, like there'd be a, you know, this pump and that pump, and I'd have to use extra pipes to join them together. So if I have the pumps coming out of the tanks where the tanks join, I can just have a single pump coming out into a single pipe. Now, that is not running because I've turned that off. If I turn that on, it will start sending more oil, which I don't really need to do. I know that this lot works, and I know that it's all going to work sort of quite well with this number of storage tanks. And that amount of oil in the system, I know that that is going to work pretty well. And I still don't know if this is overkill for the amount of oil, plastic that I'll actually need in the main factory. We'll have to see when we start building the low density structures and all the rest of it. But this I'm quite happy with at the moment. Yes, I'm only using 11 out of the 12 plastic factories, but I can easily, you know, I could start mining all this and just have a pipe coming down there to feed, you know, to feed these bottom 4 as well, because I don't have to do it. Once this oil field starts running out, I'm going to have to start tapping into this one. But yeah, I mean, there is plenty of oil. I mean, down here, there's you know, 16,000, 9,000, 8,000. So there's plenty of oil around. I don't need to worry about what I'm doing with that. The other thing that I did in the main base, I just cut the line here to stop it launching more rockets, so that it would end up just using up all of the space science that we already had stockpiled in here. We're now down to 54,000, which is, you know, it was 78,000 last time I looked, and it's still doing the research, and it's still, you know, everything there is working pretty well. Most of the research labs are running. I'm still a little bit sort of dribs and drabs on the purple, but they're coming in pretty much as fast as can be expected. I think there's just a few gaps on the rails, which is why some of these occasionally go red. And then the gaps on the rails, well, these are running. That's running as fast as it can. If I wanted more rails coming in, I'd just have to build another machine. But yeah, that is still working very well. We've got plenty of stuff coming in. I mean, yes, we're not launching any rockets, so we're not using up as much as we were before. So it will be all fully backed up on the conveyor belts. Back in my sandbox world, I'm going to start working on utility science. Okay, so it says we need 53 of those machines making that. So again, if we do 9 6s, that's 54. Okay. It needs processing units, flying robot frames, low density structures. So we'll have output going like that, so that's going to be tileable. What are the quantities it needs? 1, 2 and 3. So we'll have flying robot frames and processing units on one belt and low density structures on another one. Let's try that. Okay. Question is now that I'm sucking everything up there. Does this need to be on both sides of the belt, or are they? No, I think they are still enough to output onto just one side. Speed that up a little bit. Look at my production science. That's definitely enough. So we're not running out of any source ingredients. Now I'm half tempted to think about whether I should be making the low density structures on site or whether I should make them, have a factory elsewhere and just bring them in on a train, because I need them for the rocket launcher as well. So I'm going to need low density structure factories for both utility and rockets. So let's have a look back at the factory planner. That needs, yeah, that says it needs 107 machines for that. Now if I were to add in 5,000 space science onto this as well, we need 213 machines. We need 7,100. Yeah, that is basically going to be a factory in its own right, and we'll bring stuff in for that. So we need basically copper plate, steel plate and plastic bar, and we need 213 assembly machines. So let's have a think about 213 divided by 48 is 4.5. So if I have 9 sets of 24, I don't want these to run out of ingredients, so I'd rather it was and again I think I could downgrade these to, because these take so long to manufacture that a red belt, a yellow belt there is probably still fine. So that's 3, 6. Will there be enough copper getting to the top? It is running out slightly, isn't it? Even that second one down is running out. But it looks like it can handle 4. So I needed 8 Well, I needed 9 of these, didn't I? 3, that's 1. Do I want to do it as... Three, have some space there to run some belts. 3, 6. Thinking about it. Output 6,690. Let me just double check on the factory. Has that rounded it down at all? 212.6. Ah, no, I've got... Ah, right, hang on a minute. The top row of these doesn't have... isn't beaconed up properly. So let's just run that over one of those. 2419.2. 2419.2 times 3 equals 7. 2419.2 times 3 equals 7257.6, and we needed 7143, so that should be enough. That is the size of our low density structure factory, and that is big enough to warrant being a factory in its own right. One row needs 34,560 copper, 13 belts of copper coming in per factory. Yeah, I can't just sort of do it where I've got a nice even split of like one belt feeds 2 lines, because I'm going to run out of belts, I think. And I don't think it will quite feed 2 lines, so I think we'll have to do something like that. Let's just have a... and do something. Actually, what I can do is... that looking? So that is now all working. All of these lines of copper are actually moving. So it is using them all up. That little one there isn't moving. But if I change those, then it does move. There's a little bit of copper sort of left on the other half of these belts. Even then, it does move from time to time, and I think the further down you go, the more often it will move. So that moves a little bit, that moves a little bit. That is all rivers and rivers of copper. So how many? That's 19 lines of copper coming in. Now, to be fair, we probably don't need 19 full lines. I have 16 lines that sort of come in off. See, it's even surprising how quickly those run. Yeah, no, I definitely need all those lines coming in. It's not like there's enough sort of left over on these lines. All these lines are still getting used up, and there is, you know, from here on in, there's, well, only a very, very small amount coming in. Certainly not enough to feed 2 more lines. So that could we could maybe get rid of 1 line, but then we've still got 18. Even if we got rid of 1 line, we'd still have 18 belts coming in, trying to come in off sort of 2 trains or something. So the point is, right, so we need 19 lines of copper for that one, and then we've got three rows of this. So that's 57 lines of copper coming in. If I split these into smaller factories, if I split that in half, it's still going to be sort of 10 belts, 9 or 10 belts. That's it, that'll do. So 10 rows. I'll say this is more manageable, but it's still going to be, I'm still going to need lots of these factories. It's just that each factory is a smaller unit. And I might end up having to do smaller trains, like maybe just sort of 1-1 trains or something for these. Just so that we don't have to wait so long for a train to load up. So this will produce there we go, that's evening itself out a little bit now. So the point is that can just go onto a single train. Right. that is all working. So that is 36 machines. So we needed basically 6 of those. It's 216, right. Now that is 10. So I might be able to get away with doing something like a 4 to 5 balancer twice. In fact, let's just try this now. So is that still going to be enough copper coming in off the 8 lines to feed the 10 lines that we had previously? So that light's gone green. These are all green lights. These are all still working. So I need basically 6 of these, each one needing a full train of copper. 1728 steel is less than a belt. So 1 steel train should be able to supply all of those factories. And I'm going to use the calculator on my phone because it's a lot more easier to use than the other one. 1728 times 6 is 10,368 divided by 2,700 is 3.84. So we need 4 belts of steel. So that's 1 train. It needs 4,320 times 6 is 25,920 divided by 2,700. It needs 9.6, so it needs 10 belts of plastic, which is going to be 2 trains, and it needs well, basically 6 trains of copper, doesn't it? So that's going to be 8 trains coming in, which I can get into an octagon. And then we might merge everything out. I think I'll also be able to get away with using... Will I be able to get away with using red belts? Okay, so that produces 1210 LDS per factory. I'm still wondering how many trains, or whether to have some shorter trains, because this is only going to go from this factory into the rockets and to low density structures. So I might just do it the same way I did with the coal refueling train, of just having it as a normal train and not an LDS one, an LTN one, and just have it set going from the pickup station to whichever drop-off station is requesting stuff. And the annoying thing with that is that if they both request stuff at the same time, then one of them's just going to have to wait, and that will slow everything down. So I might have to have a largish buffer at the other end, so that even when the station requests items, there's still plenty in you know, like I did with the oil, so it unloads from one tank into another tank into another tank, so that even when the first row of tanks is empty, there's still plenty of oil in the other tanks, so the factory doesn't stop running. Tell you what we'll do, we'll have this going. I might do this instead of it going horizontally, I might have it going vertically. Let's just have a look. I'm just thinking about how they might tile next to each other. 8, 16. That is 48. Is 48 enough? I thought I said I needed 57 or so. Oh no, that's because I had 4 going into 5. That's right. Now then, the other items coming in. Right, let's just see how this compares now to the size of an octagon. Takes up most of it. I mean, it will go in, you know, I mean, it'll fit and it'll work. Because we're going to have so many items coming in from both the left and the right. So let's just put that as being like a little marker as saying, let's say that comes in off the train in that direction. Because this is such a wide area, I've seen other people sort of work on sort of complicated sort of bridges where you're getting items going up and down and then they're crossing huge areas like this. And for me, I mean, it's just as easy to try and get the stuff to come in from the other side of the build. I wonder if it'll be cheaper to actually do something to bring the stations closer to the build instead of using all these belts. Just have the, you know, have the line come in with the stacker, and then it can just sort of curve off and come back down and back up again. Doesn't have to be a perfect curve, but it'll do that. That's an idea, because it's cheaper to build rails than it is to build belts. Now, having said that, is it then going to be more feasible? I've got another idea now. Similar to what we did with the steel build of just having trains coming in, and so instead of having all these belts in the middle, right, here's an idea. Let's make a copy of all of this. Now then, let's get rid of LTN unload, and they're going to be opposites, at least on the top anyway. See, this will work if I have these factories a little bit further apart. So that's like my standalone build. So what if I had one there, one there, and one there? And each one kind of roughly lined up and matching up with these stations. Now, would it be infeasible to do LTN unload and then I'd have the stackers. I've got plenty of room down here to put stacker, haven't I? let's have a think about this. Let's move that along there a little bit. Not that, rail curve. So that would be long enough for a stacker. In fact, that would be... we probably wouldn't have this line in the middle, because that stacker would just be for that station there. So I won't be able to flip and rotate this because I've got rails and signals and whatever on the lines, but I could take up the actual stations and then flip it and rotate it. So that is an idea worth progressing with, I think, because this initial idea of having all the factories centralized and then the trains just coming in on the left and the right, it's fine in theory, but when you start building it you realize how expensive it is. And if we do something where we get the trains to drop off closer to the factories, I think the factories, you know, as I said earlier, the trains run faster than the belts, so the items will just get into the factories quicker. Now the other thing is, do I still want to have 4 stackers? Do I want to have that many stackers for the copper trains? Because it's just going to start requesting so much copper to start off with. When it gets to the stage of turning on the factory, I'm definitely going to have to do it in sections, and I might even have to do it station by station. Because even then, if I turn on the outputs with the low density structures all at the same time, then all the trains, all the factories are still going to be requesting new ingredients at the same time. Okay. So I've then got plenty of space for my drop-off stations here. I've got room for stackers, and I might still be able to get these a little bit closer together if I just use two, you know, set these for 3 trains instead of 4. In fact, this is 5 because I've got room for 1 in the station and 4 queuing up. So I think everywhere I've actually built 1 stacker too many, because I've set everything to be a train limit of 4 and I've got 4 rails for it to queue up on. But that's not going to make a massive amount of difference because I've still got, I mean, these are this far apart because of the length of this station, the fact that the train comes in. Although, to be fair, I could have that. A little bit closer. And then it would come out. I probably could make this a little bit more compact because I would have, see, that could now go as close as that. Oh, that's much closer. Hang on a minute. Yeah, that might still be a little bit. I want to make sure that I've got enough room to put these the stations in, really. If I do put that sort of down there next to that one, I think that will have enough room for a station there. Yeah. So if I don't have so many stackers and I don't have so many rails before and after the stations, this can actually go a lot more sort of central. Okay, so that's not looking quite so majorly big now, and I wonder if I can still get 2 of these in the build. If I just, oh, it's going to be tight if I just sort of copy and paste it and do it the other way around, but I could get that a little bit closer. I might even be able to squeeze all 6 in if I have 3 stations coming in on the bottom left and bottom right and 3 stations coming in on the top left. Could still work. In theory, this lot can now go. So I only need 2 stations coming in instead of 3. So there could still be a little bit more room to play around with down there. But now if I copy, rotate and paste all that in, it fits. Liking this. I mean, it still needs obviously a lot more work, but the theory is sound, I think. That we can have 6 of these stations or factories in one octagon with enough copper coming in, because I've got the 6 stations here close to the factory. Okay. Alright, I will sleep on that and I'll come back to it tomorrow and we'll see if we can get a slightly neater and tidier version of this built, because I only need 2 trains coming in on each side, and I'll get another train sort of somewhere for the low density structures to go out. I'll squeeze that one in somewhere. And in theory, we could just do, because all these come out on red belts, and red belts are much cheaper, I could have all of these sort of coming out. See, these on the left go out to the left, and these on the right go out to the right, but I could have everything coming out in the same direction, and then have another station over here in the square, picking up the low density structures. There's nothing to say that the train picking up the output needs to be in the same octagon as the factories. If there's space to put it somewhere else, it could go somewhere else, and it just means that there's like thousands of low density structures just sitting on belts. But once you start making them, they're going to be sitting somewhere. Or I could potentially use bots to move the low density structures from the output to pickup station somewhere. Because there's so many ingredients going in and so few items relatively coming out, it might be more feasible to do that with bots than it is to do it on belts. although when I ran it, when I ran the factory on its own, it was still producing. It's still producing sort of. See, that is still working. And I still got one down here that was sort of ready to. Still outputs 1210 per minute, so I'm still going to need a lot of bots. I mean, individually each machine doesn't produce that many, but together there's still quite a fair bit of items coming back out again. It's evolving. That's what I like about it. And I've got to make sure that I do actually sort of cover all the bases and make sure that all the rail lines are signalled, and I will try and put in the radars and the roboports on the blueprint so that I can just sort of put it down and get the bots to build it itself. But I mean, that's still a good idea. It's just that I kept on forgetting to do it. But yeah, we're going to have the sort of 2 stations instead of 3 here. Well, I could keep it with the 3 stations and just change one of them to be an output. I mean, I've thought about this before and never got around to doing it, or I never, it just became easier, I think, to do the output elsewhere. But because this is so busy, I don't think I'll have room. I'll have 2 stations coming in on one side with just the so we only need 1 steel and 2 plastic. Is it going to be feasible to just get these input stations here and just run everything around? No, I'm not going to have all the belts going all over the place. I might as well just have twice as many input stations and each one delivering half as frequently, basically. It's going to eat up all the items, whether they come in on one train or 2. And I can probably just squeeze in the output station on this side. Yeah, I'll work something out. I'll get it in there, one way or the other. And if it turns out that we end up having lots of traffic jams, I'll just change these inputs either so that they are the Mark II version or that they only come in from the inside rail. Or I might even have some of these on the second rail, so it just forces the trains to travel on the second rail instead of the inside rail. So I might just sort of break the rail there like that. And that would force the train to sort of, if it's going to come into this station, I mean, this is a bad example because that's an output, but on this input here, I might break this line here, and then that would force the train that comes into here to use this second rail in, and it might sort of spread the traffic out amongst all the other rails. I mean, we still might have traffic jams. I mean, I don't suppose it actually matters. The traffic jams weren't so much because there were so many trains on on each rail. It was because there was so little space between the end of the train and the junction. I should be able to start building this tomorrow, I think. So for now, I will say, see you next time.